ASEAN Dailies. First and foremost news from Southeast Asia.
Good morning, everybody, and this is Grace from DurianASEAN, the voice of discovery and sharing. And you are at our first segment of our ASEAN breakfast call called ASEAN Dailies, where we bring a news from Southeast Asia as well as locally. Now, today is International Nurses Day, so happy International Nurses Day, which is also called IND. So apparently this day celebrated since 1965, and in 1953 it was Dorothy Sutherland, an official with the U.S. Department of Health, Education and Welfare. She proposed that the president Dwight D. Eisenhower proclaimed the Nurse Day. He did not approve it, but later on, in January 1974, it was May 12th, was chosen to celebrate the day as it is anniversary of the birth of Florence Nightingale. And that we basically know who she is, who's widely considered the founder of modern nursing. So each year, ICN, which is the International Council of Nurses, will prepare and distribute the International Nurses Day kit. The kit contains the educational and public international materials for use by nurses everywhere. And then again later on in 1999, the British Public Sector Union, Unison, voted to ask ICN to transfer this day to another date, saying Nightingale does not represent modern nursing. So it's just a bit of history, but to all those nurses out there around the world, happy International Day, a happy International Nurses Day, and I hope we can also appreciate how nurses have been putting their work and effort to the health system and structure around the world. So let's move on to our first news of ASEAN Dailies is about very exciting news that happened in the football. Especially football fans are in for a treat with upcoming Tottenham and Hotspur AIA Cup Asia Tour. And it was jointly organized by the Star newspaper and also Prevent International. So the media partnership will definitely give the readers a chance to get a hold of tickets and giveaways in coming up weeks for the match, which will be held on May 27 at Shah Alam Stadium. So this week-long stopover in Kuala Lumpur will be their first since 1979, and the team will also spend time with the supporters and they take part in the community activities with the club's principal partner, AIA. And one of them is his name is Wong, an avid Arsenal supporter who has never seen Spurs play live before, so he is definitely looking forward to the match. Those who are out there who are a big fan of football to catch up them at Shah Alam on 27th of May. And according to him, being our main rivals in North London, matches with Spurs have always brought up emotional rivalry, and he's also looking forward to watching his own or our nation's Malaysian boys do well against the Spurs as well. So this is quite an exciting news, and I hope that Malaysia can put up quite a positive energy for this match.
Moving on, still staying in Malaysia, is UMNO's Supreme Council support is president. And Malaysian Prime Minister Najib said on just Monday, his party's Supreme Council has pledged support for his leadership, and also with the speculation of growing discontent with UMNO. Well, yesterday we reported saying that Najib really strongly showed his willingness to stay in the government without leaving the government or the country itself. So he said united support for his PM Minister Najib Razak for his leadership, despite the rumors that his detractors won his resignation over mismanagement of the state-owned company One Malaysia Development Berhad, which is very controversial nowadays with Tabung Haji as well. So
Mr. Najib, or our Prime Minister Najib, who is also Finance Minister and UMNO President, has been in the line of this fire from both sides of a political divide, particularly over allegations of financial mismanagement of debt-ridden state investor 1MDB, and PM chairs the advisory board for 1MDB, many describe as his pet project. So, what will be the next controversial issues, or what can he do to make things better, or can he come up with a resolution to this? And ahead of this UMNO Supreme Council meeting, the rumors were of course were there that Mr. Najib detractors would be asking him to step down. But like we mentioned before, and also we did comment on that he will not show his interest or willingness to step down from where he is. But also it was expressed by Mr. Najib that we'll always discuss from time to time to make sure that UMNO leadership at the higher levels will be in the comfortable and a strong position, so there won't be any parties trying to divide us, especially Deputy President and I. So we'll see how Malaysia will turn out. But on the other side, UMNO Youth Chief Gowri Jamaluddin said PM had been open and honest in addressing all these concerns during the Supreme Council meeting, and he also shut down rumors that UMNO leaders had asked him to step down. So there are quite a feedback at the same time. Still, Mr. Najib is trying his best to stay on where he is now. We'll see how it goes, and we'll keep update you on the news from Malaysia. So right now we'll take a very short break. So when we return, we'll deliver more news from Southeast Asia, as well as we have a few more news from Malaysia regarding Rohingya and also Myanmar migrant. So stay tuned.
ASEAN Dailies. First and foremost news from Southeast Asia.
Good morning and welcome back to DurianASEAN. You are at ASEAN Dailies with Grace.
Hi, this is Gowri. Good morning.
Good morning. Right, so let's move on to our next news. And we still stay in Malaysia. However, well, guess how many refugees of Myanmar people are here in Malaysia? Like
I'm guessing
thousands.
Hundreds or thousands.
And apparently this is pretty serious because Malaysia has detained more than 1,000 Bangladeshi or Rohingya refugees here, and including of course the children and also the women there. And this has been ongoing issues for a long time, and we talked about how ASEAN also should come about to come up with a solution for this. And there has been the huge increase in refugee from Bangladesh and also Myanmar drifting boats to Malaysia as well as Indonesia in recent days since Thailand crackdown.
And I'm glad that you mentioned about us discussing about ASEAN, that ASEAN should step in and do something about this. But in this case, it wasn't ASEAN that actually did something. It was Thailand. A good effort by General Prayut Chan-o-cha, who came forward and said, I'm going to do something about human trafficking, because a lot of all this, every time these problems happen about the Rohingyas fleeing to Malaysia, it's always Thailand that's the center point there, because they somehow have to pass through Thailand to get to Malaysia. And it was very good that he stepped up and said, I don't want to be the center for this trafficking anymore, so I'm going to organize a huge crackdown, which is why a lot of this opportunist, I would say, who was actually making money from human trafficking, promising the Rohingyas a safe passage, which of course is not true, saying that, okay, you just have to pay me this amount of money, I'll get you to Malaysia safely. So all these in-betweeners, they got afraid and they just abandoned all these Rohingya refugees, which is why they ended up in Malaysia, in Thailand, just all over the place in boats. and they had no idea where they were going.
And it looks like they are spreading even more and at a larger area. So I'm sure it's not only Malaysia or Indonesia at the moment, but it's noticeably increasing really far, that he had to come up with some kind of a solution to this. And in fact, a few examples will be suspected traffickers camps, about 33 bodies they were found, and they believed they're either from Myanmar or Bangladesh. And also, of all those rescued of Indonesia, around 50 were taken to hospital, and they were suffering from starvation, and many were very, very thin, and the condition was very poor. And so a lot of things are creating problems from all those refugees and how they are just fleeing from their own countries.
Of course, it's a huge shock for Malaysia as well. We are used to getting migrant workers and refugees, but not in hundreds of amounts or thousands of amounts in just one night, which of course happened because the traffickers abandoned the refugees. And also, both sides actually, the police in Indonesia, the police in Malaysia, are trying to take these refugees in, trying to take down their names, make some sort of a record. And like you were saying, not all of them were in good condition, so they're trying to get medical help because there are even some women who were pregnant and they were just left in the boat and they were forced to swim to the shore because they thought, oh, okay, this is Malaysia, which will actually turn out to be Aceh, which is quite far away across the straits. And so it seems that they are all being sent to the hospital trying to get medical attention, and also they're trying to get records on all these people so they can keep track of the refugees.
And at the same time, when they come to Malaysia and Indonesia, it's not that they are also treated fairly in the country, and it's still they are not recognized in the government, and as in the issues has been going on, but then the way how they are treated in the country, or they are the living condition here is still more or less the same, and they will have their own community in certain areas, and they are also being ignored by all this public. So even the getting the education system, or they are hoping for the better lifestyle, isn't happening in reality.
It's very tough for refugees because another thing that happens is most people confuse refugees and migrant workers. And the thing about refugees is they really cannot go back to their country. It's unsafe, like you were saying. In Myanmar, they are not recognized as citizens, not even as second-class or third-class citizens. They are just stateless, and they are there. They're given a certain card, and they're being called names that they don't want to be called, and even millions of them are being killed in Myanmar itself, which is why they were forced to flee in the first place. And coming to Malaysia doesn't promise them that much of a better future. We do have a couple of centers here, like for example the UNHCR that does deal with refugees, but at the same time there would of course not be a permanent solution as well. At the end of the day, they want to be in a country where they feel like a citizen and they can get access to all the basic necessities, like you were talking about food, education for the kids, job opportunities, and that makes it a very tricky situation here, especially with thousands of them fleeing it at one go.
It is very tricky, and then only the number is increasing. And in fact, just a few give example is it was just counted around 500, but it's increasing even more, just to 573 just over the weekend. And this is by Indonesian authorities. They do revise the number of migrants aboard, and as well as the refugees, and it's only getting more and more. So there should be something to either protect them or set up the policy or regulations for them to be able to stabilize themselves first once they arrive in certain countries, then come up with the resolution that how we can do about to help them, or set up the bridge to talk to the countries where they come from, and then send them back. But then they have to feel safe to go back to their own countries.
That's the thing. I think that's a very good point, that they should start coming up with some sort of a move. It's great that General Prayut Chan-o-cha did something about human trafficking, which was very abrupt and sudden, but I think it was necessary for him to step up. Thailand of all the countries to come forward and to say that we want to put a stop to this. And I think Malaysia can also follow suit. As the chairman of ASEAN, we should have probably been the one to step up and also say no to human trafficking, no to ill treatment of migrant workers and other human rights issues that we're facing over here. So perhaps Thailand could actually lead by example, and other countries can follow suit and start their crackdown on human trafficking and other grave human rights issues as well.
It would be great to hear all those voices from different countries, as well as especially from leaders. But however, I just mentioned and talked shortly about Malaysia, how we have our own internal problems, and especially with the Prime Minister showing his willingness to stay in the government.
I like
so
how you say willingness.
Yes, to stay in the government so strongly that there's no actually things to counter him back to step down, no matter the rumors and then the opponents ask him to step down from the government. But again, that's all the other stories apart from talking about refugees here.
But I think although every country has their own internal problems, that's something that we cannot run away from. Of course, they always have their domestic issues, their domestic politics happening. But at the same time, I do think that the ASEAN leaders should still come together, or at least they could start small. It doesn't have to be 10 countries together, at least from Thailand, Malaysia, Indonesia first. Perhaps Myanmar can step in later, Singapore can step in, and they can just build and grow from there. When they just have to start small. Just somebody has to get the ball rolling. I think that's the issue here, is that nobody wants to step up and make the first move, which is why nothing ever happens, and we keep waiting and waiting for ASEAN to say something about this.
So we'll see who, apart from Thailand, or which is the second country, will come up with a solution, or at least to giving the help hand to these refugees there. Well, let's move on to talk about ASEAN leaders. So apparently 10th ASEAN Leaderspeak, ASEAN cultural heritage through design and innovation. So on its last installment for this academic year, the ASEAN Leaderspeak series featured 2 highly respected industry leaders from textile and apparel industry as well. And this textile and apparel supply chain compasses the fibers, fabrics, garments, machinery, design, and logistics. So we are heading to achieve this AEC, ASEAN Economic Community, where we always talked about single production-based business which enjoys the benefits of economic of scale from product and service and complementation across the region. So what's the next step for this one?
And another thing that they're concerned about is, although, like you were saying, ASEAN has this huge potential, single production base, and of course a ton of benefits that they can offer, but we are also apparently famous for deep-lying political and governance issues. For example, we were just talking about one of it just now.
Yep.
And they also have a very grave issue when it comes to corruption, as well as a lot of red tapes, a lot of formalities when it comes to filling up the forms and making a simple thing happen. And this could actually be a preventing factor in foreign investors coming in, or other companies, other countries even trying to establish ties with ASEAN.
How does that, okay, because it's AEC, it's more of economic side and business side. But when we talk about the internal political side, even though they are linked together, we could still separate them as a separate entity, because we want to achieve AEC via different approach, and then political resolution from different approach. So this, even though we have all these internal political and governance issues, when it comes to AEC to be able to achieve, it's all about how they can be able to touch each business sector and also be able to bring the benefits together in all these 10 member states.
I think it depends on the framework of each country as well. Like, for example, Singapore could be very easy for countries to deal with, because they have been doing that for so long, kind of experts in that area,
They are.
especially in Southeast Asia.
Yeah.
But if you were to look at, for example, another country that's been mentioned a lot is Indonesia. that's a country that's a lot of red tape happening, a lot of different departments that you have to go through in order to get something done. And I guess another issue there is that there's no uniformity in terms of how things are done, whether it's a foreign investor coming in, whether it's a trade deal being signed, and the thing that's why these leaders came together and said there should be a proper framework for them to address this, or otherwise it could be a preventing factor for other investors to come in.
So with all that, is AC achievable? With all 10 member states been discussing about achieving this one single market throughout all the Southeast Asia. But there are, of course, comes with concerns and also issues because every country has a different economical state, and also with that it also come along with all these political issues that we can't ignore. So we'll see how it goes. The AC, whether all these 10 member states will be able to fulfill the AC or not. But in addition to that, there's also another sort of news to add to ASEAN integration, which is the environment.
And I think that answers your previous question on can the AEC happen?
Yeah.
And you're also saying that it's very economic based, and that's exactly what this news is about. That when it comes to AEC, I think we have also mentioned this a lot, because the name itself, ASEAN Economic Community, focuses on economic benefits. And when we talk about ASEAN integration, it's usually the AEC. And that seems like there's a lot of emphasis on trade deals, on different pacts, on non-tariff barriers. And the concern here is, where does environment come in all this? And how exactly is environment given an allocation in the AEC, and how can we make sure that as much as we want to achieve all these economic benefits, we do not neglect the environmental part of ASEAN?
When it comes to ASEAN, there are a few issues or few topics that concerns environmental matters in ASEAN. However, those issues are not highlighted as much as the other issues that's been going around. But in the approach to ASEAN integration as a regional community, there appears to be the key aspect of integration, which is which is missing in the environmental areas. So perhaps they should also look into the different approach, different direction, different channel to be able to cover all those parts that involves the ASEAN matters.
And you're absolutely right. We also were talking about how things like music, culture, theater is not really being incorporated. Of course, culture is something that is also a key aspect when it comes to ASEAN integration, because we do have a lot of similarities in a lot of countries. For example, Malaysia and Indonesia, we have so much similarities in terms of culture, and it would probably be very easy to integrate and for people to understand each other and for us to stop fighting about certain things,
right,
like where it came from. And even if we look at Philippines, their language is quite similar to what we have. Singapore is also very similar. So it's a bit of a wonder that why a culture is actually not being emphasized that much as the economic benefits, and of course in this case environment as well. There is no specific clause or a new law or regional law to address environmental or certain landscaping issues. And of course this is a very general approach, but to be more specific, we have certain dams being built in the Mekong River that's also causing a huge damage, and nothing's being done about that as well, because there is no allocation for environmental issues.
Well, also in addition to that, we can also talk about the deforestation, and the other part is how about already starting the separating all these trashes. You know, in Japan, they've been practicing separating the cans, plastics, and this may sound very small, minorish sort of resolution, but this can make whole environmental change in a bigger picture. Why can't Malaysia start? And why can't Indonesia start? Or Indonesia having one of the largest population. So if they can start, all those ASEAN members can follow their examples.
I think that goes back again to one country country
Right.
stepping up and
Yep.
getting the ball rolling, and probably every other country can catch up with the momentum.
So come on, ASEAN, do something about this. So we'll take a short break. We'll return with
More news, perhaps this time the Vietnam and Korea, and perhaps also North Korea's
part as well.
ASEAN Dailies. First and foremost news from Southeast Asia.
Welcome back to DurianASEAN. This is Grace.
Hi, this is Gowri.
So let's continue our daily news with why not the trade agreement between Vietnam and Korea. It's called VKFTA. It sounds very ambitious and pretty big and very strong.
It does sound ambitious, and they're also planning for a triple trade turnover. Also another mouthful. And this is, of course, they're looking to expand the ties between Vietnam and Korea. And this was signed on the 5th of May, after 2 years of negotiation between the two parties, and it has, of course, widened the door for both countries to become each other's major trade partner and also to exchange benefits. To sort of complement each other, whatever that they're missing.
So when it comes to free trade agreement, of course, they will have the positive impact to both economic states and also to improve the business environment and boosting the restructuring of economic towards the sustainable value-added growth. And this is very good news to both countries, even though Korea is not a part of ASEAN, but still being a developing country. And also Vietnam can also benefit from Korea's lot of examples. For example, Korea has a lot of big companies such as Samsung, Daewoo, and also perhaps the well-known other than Samsung, the fridge brand. Oh, LG, thank you.
LG, okay.
Yeah, so
I actually didn't know LG was Korean.
yeah, it is. And the LG is short form for life is good. So yeah, all these big companies, and when it comes to technology and management also, will also give a lot of they can exchange a lot of opportunities between these two countries.
And of course, Korea is also one of Vietnam's biggest export market. If you look at seafood, garment, footwear, agriculture, or even wooden furniture sectors. And in turn, Vietnam imports mainly chemicals and garment input, and as well as equipment for Korea. So it's definitely a change of a lot of not just food, but also other apparels happening here. And Korea is also very interested in helping Vietnam to enhance its policy making abilities and to increase their competitiveness. Apparently, Korea is one of the most competitive countries in the world. I think you would agree with me as well. And they are doing all they can to help Vietnam to get out there and compete with the other ASEAN countries.
Yes, for sure. And just to give a little bit of historical background between the South Korea and the Vietnam relations, is both of them established formal diplomatic relations in 1992, though these two countries had already had various historical contacts long before that. And the Republic of Korea is very important partner of Vietnam and also good model for Vietnam to expand the cooperations as well as to exchange experiences during development process. So hopefully both these two countries can keep up with this relationship and also to expand more opportunities in terms of economical growth. Okay, our last news before we end our ASEAN Daily is let's just move just a bit to North part, which is North Korea. Yeah, they will never stop testing missiles and also other sorts of weapons, and it really increases the tension around to surrounding countries.
I think the leader Kim Jong-un is quite fond of intimidating other countries around him, especially South Korea, which is why he has launched multiple missile tests. And the recent one just happened, and it seems that it's also increasing the tension between North Korea and South Korea. And the U.S. has, of course, stepped in to ask North Korea to refrain, but whether they will or not, it's probably up to Kim Jong-un to decide and to see if he wants to go ahead with it or not.
It is very scary at the same time. It looks like it's unstoppable,
on Kim Jong-un's side, because he has been running a lot of missile tests, and that threatens a lot of surrounding countries, especially neighboring countries, including Japan as well. And this test followed by, like I mentioned before, North Korea's military repeated warning to the Presidential National Security Office there through the border communication channel. When it comes to communication, there is a one line between North Korea and South Korea.
Right.
It's very horrible. They don't communicate. Even though we send our communication to them, there is hardly any response from them. So it's already proven that North Korea will hardly listen to any advices
And
from
they're not looking to make friends.
Yeah, so we have no say in this, but we are just hoping that there will be a lesser missile testings from North Korea, because that really gives a lot of negative vibe, and also it will disturb the relationship between North Korea and also its so-called friends around the nation.
So I guess that wraps up our ASEAN Daily for this morning. And if you have any feedback, you want to get in touch with us, you can reach out to us on our Facebook page. We also have Twitter and Instagram. And also subscribe to our YouTube channel for all the daily podcasts.
And don't forget to visit our website, which is at DurianASEAN.com. And you can also download the TuneIn app to listen to us, DurianASEAN.com.